Hello friends, welcome to Shiksharthi. In this video, we'll be talking about calendars. So let's start. So as always, you would see that I have divided this topic into the basics and the concepts which we'll be using to build up the basics. And I personally feel that the topics like number system, calculations are really important when we talk about calendars as a topic. When I say they are really important, what do I mean to say is, when I say numbers, I am basically talking about HCF, LCM, divisibility, thereof. And when I say calculations, naturally it goes without saying that we should be good at calculations. At the same time, we cannot neglect a subtopic like HCF and LCM when we are doing calendars. So we need to upgrade our knowledge on these topics before we think of doing calendars. The second reason why I say that calendars is really important is because you have a daily application of calendars in real life situations wherein, for example, if I want to calculate the day when I was born, I can always check the answer with the facts. And you can always check the facts with respect to your parents can always tell you the day you were born, and then by doing this physically when you are calculating, you can match the dates and the days. And at the same time, when we talk about various competitive exams, this topic is a must, right? So let's start. So the first concept that we are talking under the head of calendars is the concept of leap years and non-leap year. So now when we are talking about years and when we are talking about calendars, the first and the foremost thing which needs to be understood here is years. When I go down to the micro level from the macro level. So first we talk about years, then we talk about, under the head of years, we talk about weeks. Under the head of weeks, we talk about days. Or another perspective here is, when we talk about years, then we talk about months, then we talk about weeks, and then we talk about days. So these are the four things that you need to remember always when you're talking about calendars. Okay. Now a leap year and a non-leap year. For further discussions, we'll be using leap year as LY and a non-leap year as NLY. When I say non-leap year, I'm basically referring to an ordinary year. So as discussed here, a non-leap year will always have 365 days. Though it is not exactly 365, we call it as 365 1 by 4. Now the number of days are decided by the revolution of Earth around the Sun, not the rotation. So there is a difference between the two. Rotation is nothing but when the Earth rotates around its imaginary axis, and the revolution, which is nothing but the revolution of Earth around the Sun in the orbit, decides the number of days in a leap year or a non-leap year. So as written here, you would see that a non-leap year has 365 1 by 4 days. I have neglected 1 by 4 and I have taken the integer number of days. It has 365 days. 1 by 4 has been neglected. So after every 4 years, I would say that 1 day gets added. So which is why the concept of after every 4 year, the leap year comes into picture. So which is why a leap year will have 366 days, which is nothing but 365 1 by 4 into 4, which gives me one more additional day, which makes the total count of days in a leap year as 366. Then there is a concept like, as we discussed, the year has 365 days and a week is made of 7 days. So which is why we divide it by 7 days and we get what? We get 52 weeks, and then there is a one odd day which is left, and this is nothing but 7 days per week. So if you recall my discussion on fractions with you, so we can even combine a topic like fractions. And when I'm referring to fractions here, I'm basically talking about an improper fraction. An improper fraction which can be written in the form of, which is a mixed fraction, which can be written in the form of a quotient, then remainder divided by a divisor, is how I can write down. So from here itself, you can see that 365 divided by 7 gives me how many weeks? 52 weeks, one odd day, and this when I divide it by 7. So a leap year will have 52 weeks and 2 odd days, whereas a non-leap year will have 52 weeks and 1 odd day. I hope you have understood this. So now this is 7n plus 1. 7n plus 1 refers to what? A non-leap year when divided by 7 gives me a remainder 1. Similarly, a leap year when divided by 7 gives me a remainder 2, which is why I have written it as 7n plus 1, and here I have written it as 7n plus 2. Okay. Further on, then there is a concept of the number of odd days. So this is again a concept here. So if I get 0 odd days, that means I need to refer that day as, or I need to prototype that day as a Sunday. Similarly, if I am getting 1 odd day, that means that day is a Monday. So 0 to 6 is the table which symbolizes which day is it, dependent on the number of odd days that I am getting. And again, the number of odd days is dependent on the divisibility rule of 7. So if I get a multiple of 7, that means the number of odd days are 0. If I divide it by 7, get a remainder as 1, that means the day is a Monday, and analogously. So if I divide it by 7 and if I am getting a remainder like 6, that means that day is supposed to be considered as a Saturday. I hope this part is clear. Taking this discussion further, if I take any 100 years, and if I want to understand any 100 years will give me how many odd days, in any way, as we discussed earlier also, that the number of odd days are dependent on when I divide it by 7 and what the remainder is. So for example, if I take any 100 years, can I say this will have what? This will have leap years and non-leap years both? Can I say, now leap year is nothing but few seconds back or few minutes back we talked about a leap year repeats itself after every 4 years. So the point to be understood here is 100 can be written as 4 into 25. Now when I say 4 into 5, I am basically saying what? The first year as 4, the second year as 8, the third year as 12, and then the 100th year as 4 into 25. So which is not, so which when I'm saying multiples of 4, that means the 25th multiple. So am I given to understand now, since I know that a leap year comes in a multiple of 4, can I say the 100th year also will be a leap year? No. So we are talking about those leap years which do not end in 100. We are talking about leap years again can be divided into 2 parts. So if I were to just sidetrack this discussion, and if I have to talk about leap year can be divided into 2 parts. One is a non-centenary leap year, which is a multiple of 4. Now when I say a non-centenary leap year, I am basically saying what? Let's say a year like 2004, 2008. This is a non-centenary. Non-centenary means it is not a multiple of 100. Okay? But when I say a centenary leap year, that means I am basically referring to all those multiples of 100 which should be multiples of 4 as well. So a centenary leap year will not be merely a multiple of 100. It will be a multiple of 400. I repeat, a leap year which is not a multiple of 100 has to be a multiple of 4. Then only it will be called as a leap year. And a centenary leap year will be a leap year only when it is a multiple of 400. I hope I have made this point and you have fairly understood this. So coming back, when I say 100th year, in any 100 years, will the 100th year be a leap year? No, because it is a centenary year, but at the same time it is not a multiple of 400. Which is why if I take any 100 years, I will say 24 leap years and 76 non-leap years. Now 24 leap years will give me how many odd days? 48 odd days, ODs for odd days. And 76 non-leap years will give me 76 ODs, odd days. So when I combine this and I divide it by 7, I get what? I get 124 divided by 7. Now when I divide 124 by 7, how much is the remainder? So can I say this is nothing but 7 ones are 7? So now it comes as 7 sevens are 49. So referring to the same logic, any 100 years will have what? 17 weeks, 5 odd days when I divide it by 7 days per week. So in short, What have I written here? I have written any 100 years will give me 5 odd days. Any 200 years is just like saying 5 into 2, which is 10 divided by 7 again, which is 3 odd days. Similarly, 300 odd years will be, 300 years will be just like saying 3 into 5, which is 15 divided by 7, which gives me 1 odd day. And last but not the least, if I say 400 years, so it is just like saying 4 into 5, 20 odd days, right? And the 400th year itself will be a leap year, as we discussed few seconds back. So any number, any year which is a multiple of 400 becomes a leap year. So in short, 20 odd days plus another 1 odd day gives me 21. So we are getting 0 odd days. This is the basic concept that we'll be using in the second session when we solve certain questions. Okay, after we would have understood the concepts. Similarly, the next point that I have mentioned here is, and this comes from observation. If you observe, if you refer to any calendar, you will see that a day repeats after every 7 days. Now, the moment I say a day repeats after every 7 days, the point that I'm trying to make here now from a different perspective is, on the 8th day, the same day repeats. For example, if 1st of January 2020 was a Wednesday, and I know that the same day repeats after every 7 days, that means on the 8th day, which is 8th January 2020, I'll be getting the same day, which is a Wednesday. Similarly, 15th of January, 22nd of January, and the 29th of January will give me the same day, which is Wednesday. Taking this forward, combining point number 2 and point number 5, and point number 1 as well. So I'm talking about point number 1, right? Point number 2 and point number 5 is how I'm making point number 6. Now I know that few minutes back we talked about a leap year will give me 2 odd days, which is just like saying 7n plus 2. And a non-leap year will give me 1 odd day, which is just like saying 7n plus 1. And I know that every day repeats itself after 7 days, which is again just like saying after 7n plus 1 days. Or 7n plus 1th day, I get the same day. Right? Another perspective to this. So, can I say, using the same logic, if 1st of January 2020 was a Wednesday, the last day of the same year will be the same day. Can I say this? I can say this because this is a leap year. But then, if I say, had it been a non-leap year, so I'm taking 1 year ahead, 1 year before, which is 2019. So 1st January 2019 in that case will be a Tuesday, and the 31st day of December in the same year, which is 2019, will be the same day, which is a Tuesday. So the point that I'm trying to make here is a combination of point number 1, point number 2 and point number 5, which says a non-leap year, which is an year which is not a multiple of 4 or a 400, is a non-leap year that will start and end with the same day, right? And a leap year, if it starts with a particular day, it ends on a consecutive day. For example, if a leap year starts with a Monday, then the end of that year, which is the 31st of December of a leap year, if it started from a Monday, will end on a Tuesday, is the point that I have already made. So point number 7 I have already discussed. Point number 8 I have discussed in a certain sense, which is just like saying a leap year will always be a multiple of 4. If it is not a multiple of 4, then it will be a non-leap year, and the non-leap year is of the form what? If I divide it by 4, either I'll get a remainder 1, 2 or 3. Which is why you were suggested at the very beginning of this video that the topics which are really important for this are numbers and calculations. So when we said numbers, we talked about LCM, HCF and divisibility rules. Okay. Similarly, if I talk about a non-leap year and at the same time a centenary year. So a non-leap year and a centenary year will be represented by what? 400n plus 100 or 400n plus 200 or 400n plus 300. So what am I referring to? Had it been an year like 1700 AD or an 1800 AD or a 1900 AD, is basically a non-leap year. Yeah, why is it a non-leap year? Because it is not a multiple of 400. So this can be written in the form of 400 plus 100. 400, a multiple of 400 plus 100, or a multiple of 400 plus 200, or a multiple of 400 plus 300. The next important concept here is when we talk about how many odd days month-wise. So how do I calculate the number of odd days? As discussed earlier, we divide it by 7 and then we see what the remainder is. The remainder tells me the number of odd days either in a year or a month or maybe in a week. Okay, so when you are doing this, you will see that January gives me 3 odd days, February either gives me 0 when it is a leap year. No, February gives me a 0 when it is a non-leap year. February gives me 0 odd days. For example, a non-leap year will have 28 days in February, right? So when I divide 28 by 7, the remainder is how much? 0. Similarly, had it been a leap year in February, I get 1 odd day. And analogously, these are the number of odd days that I have written throughout the year. So you will see that the number of odd days except for February of any year will remain the same as written. And the number of odd days for February would vary dependent on whether that February had fallen in a leap year or that February had fallen in a non-leap year. I hope this part is clear. Last but not the least is we are going to talk about the calendar also repeats itself. For example, we have already talked about the days, the repetition of days. The days will repeat after a particular date will repeat, or the days will repeat after every 7 days. Similarly, the calendar of a year will also repeat after those many years. So we have found it out. So you will see that the calendar of 2017, which can be written in the form of 4n plus 1, will repeat after every 6 years. Similarly, so can I say now the calendar of 2017 will be the same as the calendar of what? Can I say the calendar of 2017 would be the same as the calendar of some other year? Right? And thus this repeats after every 6 years. Similarly, the calendar of 2018 repeats after 11 years. So the calendar of 2019 repeats after 11 years. Repeats after 11 years. So am I given to understand that the calendar of 2019 would be the same as the calendar of 2030? Similarly, calendar of 2018 should be the same as the calendar of 2029. And last but not the least, the calendar of 2017 should be the same as the calendar of 2023. We will talk about all these minute points in the next video. Right? If you feel that something knowledgeable has been discussed today, please do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. If you have already done so, please turn on the bell icon so that you start receiving the updates. Thank you so much. Until next time we meet, goodbye.